This has been the weirdest fall for gardeners here in my area. We usually get either a good spring or a good fall, but we don't get both. So in the spring, it tends to get hot here really quickly. And so spring crops like carrots and cabbage and peas and broccoli, they don't typically have time to really develop fully before it gets hot and they go to seed. Well, this year we had a really wonderful spring and it stayed cool and we were able to harvest a ton of broccoli and cabbage and Brussels sprouts and all of those things that love cool weather, peas. But then fall arrived, and normally I love a fall garden because my garden tends to be super productive in the fall. But here we are, it's the middle of October, and we're just now getting cool enough temperatures to really plant those cold loving things. So even though I put in seeds about 6 weeks ago for a lot of things like carrots and cabbage, they just didn't do well because it's been way too hot. So it's sort of late to plant for fall in the middle of October. Our first frost date could be any day now. It should be in about 2 weeks, but it could come at any time. So is it too late to plant? Well, no, I don't think so. I think we can still plant a few things. So I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna go ahead and direct sow some seeds today for carrots, for lettuce, for some cabbage and broccoli, for collard greens, any of the greens, spinach. Those all can tolerate a little bit of cold weather. So once it gets to like hardcore cold, like winter temperatures, the lettuce will not survive probably, but a lot of the greens can live here through the winter time, and it gives us something fresh we can be harvesting from the garden even when it's like snowing outside, which we don't get snow very often, but I've had things like kale and collard greens live even through snow. So that's what we're going to sow today. We're almost kind of planting a winter garden, even though we're planting it in the fall. And we're not going to plant the entire garden for winter. We're just going to plant, I don't know, maybe half the beds. The rest we're going to mulch and we're going to cover them and let them rest, and we'll replant them in the early spring. But for now, I really want to try to get a few things in the ground. So let's plant some seeds today. The first thing I'm going to plant today is some buttercrunch lettuce. Now, I like a lot of different kinds of lettuce, but buttercrunch is absolutely one of my favorites. It has like a good crisp texture. I don't know, I really love buttercrunch. It's from Baker Creek Seeds. So if you've never planted lettuce from seed before, the seeds are really, really tiny. Let me show you. You see those? I mean, they're just teeny tiny. Oops, I'm spilling them. We might have more lettuce plants than planned. So when you plant lettuce, you can go about it a couple of ways. You could just kind of sprinkle your seeds around. You don't really need to plant these deeply, just right on the surface. But if you do the kind of sprinkle method, you're gonna have to come back through and thin these out so that each plant has enough room to develop into a full head of lettuce. Your other option is you can not thin them out and then just cut them when they're just, 5 to 6 inches tall before they're fully grown. And a lot of people like to do that, and they do kind of a cut and come again method with lettuce where it will regrow. So I kind of like to space mine out where I can choose. I can either do, where I cut some and let them regrow, or I can let some fully develop and then cut the full head of lettuce. We're going to do it both ways. So I'm going to space these out. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And you definitely don't have to be perfect with it, but you just want to smooth your soil out. I've just added some fresh compost to this bed to kind of amend it and wake the life back up in the soil. And now we're going to plant some seeds. So let's plant these lettuce seeds together. So the first thing I like to do is kind of come in here and just make a row. And I'm going to make my rows here about, I don't know, that's probably about 6 inches apart. Okay, we're gonna do that all the way up. And as I go, I'm also going to remove any weeds that I find hiding under the surface. And then here in my rows that I've created, I'm going to take my seed and we're going to just kind of sprinkle it there in the little row. And take your time, no rush. And we're just gonna sprinkle them in every single row. Once we've added our seed, we're gonna come in and just pinch our rows closed. Just like this, and then pat it down. This just kind of keeps your seed from blowing away in the wind. There's another little weed. And that's how we plant lettuce seeds. Pretty simple. And this is also how I plant my carrots, my greens, pretty much all of it. Make a little row, or a little trench, fill it in with seed, cover it up, just barely, and pat it down. There we go. And this should be enough lettuce to feed my family through the wintertime for lots of lunch salads and all the things that we might want it for. There we go. All right, so we planted lettuce over in this part of the bed. So here in the middle kind of section, over on that side, you can't really see them, but I have a few basil plants. I'm gonna leave those because they're still producing a little bit. I'm gonna save the seeds. So we'll let them stay, but here in this section, I'm gonna do spinach. So I am planting some Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. Sorry for the background noise. We got a construction project going on this week. But this is Bloomsdale spinach. And I'm gonna plant it just like I did my lettuce, except instead of sprinkling them where they're close together, I'm actually gonna space these seeds out a little more carefully. Because spinach needs a little bit more room than a lettuce does. So we're gonna space these seeds. Let's see what the packet says. It says 6 inches apart with 18-inch rows. So I'm gonna kind of space these probably about 6 inches. That sounds about right to me. And we're pulling weeds as we go here. So again, I'm gonna make my trenches just like I did for the lettuce, and then I'm gonna space out my seeds. So here we go. Now I know that seed packet said 18 inches between rows. I'm not doing that. I'm doing about 6 inches between rows, and that works plenty. That's totally fine. You know, the thing with seed packs is they have suggestions, but they're just that, they're suggestions. Your garden, your rules, play around with it and see which spacing you like the best. So let's see here. We're gonna just start dropping some of these in. And I'm being a little more intentional with my spacing than I was with the lettuce seeds. We're gonna drop these babies in. So, do you grow spinach? Tell me in the comments. Have you ever grown your own spinach before? And if so, do you have a favorite variety? This Bloomsdale is a pretty popular variety of spinach, and it's an easy one to find. Matter of fact, these are American Seed Company. I got these seeds at Dollar General, and the packs were 4 for $1, so 25 cents. And I would say each pack probably has 50 seeds in it. So for $1, you're getting 50 spinach plants, which is a crazy good deal. And spinach does really well when you direct sow it, so you don't have to start these ahead inside. You can plant them directly into the garden just like this, and they'll do perfectly fine. That's how we plant our spinach. And then just like with the lettuce, we're gonna come through and we're gonna kind of scoot our soil together to cover our rows. So just like this. And we're just gonna close in the gap, and then we're gonna pat it down to cover the seed. That pat down kind of just helps to secure it in place, and it also will kind of help prevent birds from immediately stealing your seeds as soon as you get them in. Just kind of hides them a little bit. I don't know, it works for me, so that's what I do. All right, so we got about 5 rows of spinach planted. We got 4 rows of lettuce planted, and this has taken us less than 10 minutes, so we're doing pretty well. Let's move on and plant something else. I decided to stick with our green theme for the other side of this bed as well. You can see that little basil sitting there. That's the one I'm leaving because I'm collecting the seeds from it. So on this side of the bed, I'm going to do oak leaf lettuce. This is from M.I. Gardner, and let's see. So I grew this one for the first time earlier this year. I bought these seeds in the spring, and I've grown a lot of kinds of lettuce, but I will say so far, oak leaf lettuce is my favorite. I really loved the taste and texture of this lettuce, and it produced for months. Like, I would cut that lettuce and it would come right back. So I bet we got, I don't even know, probably 10 or 12 cuttings off that lettuce, which is a lot. Like, it just kept on growing. And it did well, even through the heat of summer until we hit about August. Once that August heat rolled in, it was done. But it lasted a whole lot longer than my buttercrunch, my spinach, and even my romaine, all of those things. So we're gonna give it a go. We know it did well in the spring, so we're gonna give it a go for fall and see how it tolerates cold weather. I know how it tolerates heat, but I don't know how it tolerates cold yet. So we're gonna give this a try. Again, these lettuce seeds are teeny tiny. Let's see if you can see them there. Oh, I'm dropping them. They're really small. So we're gonna do rows, just like we've been doing. Let me move you down here where you can actually see what's happening. Okay, so I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna cut a row in with my hand. And I'm just using the edge of my hand to lay a row in the soil. And I'm leaving about 6 inches between my rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll see how that does. We might fit a 7th. We'll see how many seeds we've got. And then just like last time, I'm gonna come in and just sprinkle in my seeds right inside the little trenches that I've been making. These oak leaf lettuce seeds are white. Some lettuce seeds are kind of brown or tan. So I find that interesting. These are the kind of the whitest lettuce seeds that I think I've ever planted. And the reason that this is called oak leaf lettuce, I assume, is because the leaves are actually shaped like leaves on an oak tree. So it's a little bit of a different look on this lettuce, but it is absolutely delicious. If you have not tried the oak leaf lettuce, I highly recommend it. I love the seeds from M.I. Gardner in general. This is the first year that I've grown M.I. Gardner seeds, and they all did amazing. I grew some cool new tomato varieties from there. So highly recommend M.I. Gardner. All right, so now our little rows are filled, and we're gonna come back in and just kind of pinch the soil over the top of the seeds and pat it down. Pinch and pat, pinch and pat. This is how we plant tiny seeds, pinch and pat. So you'll have to let me know, do you have like a special method that you follow for lettuce, or do you prefer to start your lettuce indoors? Everybody kind of has their own way of doing this, and there is no right or wrong way. It's your garden, you decide how you want to plant. But this is just how I like to do it. So there we go. We have planted, let's see, we have planted buttercrunch lettuce, Bloomsdale spinach, and oak leaf lettuce. And it only took about 15 minutes. So get out in your garden today, do some planting, and you might be surprised at how much you can accomplish, even if you've only got about 15 minutes to spare.